Chandler here, and it's baking season. And during this time of year, around Christmas time, my family tradition is monkey bread. And there have been just a numerous amount of people that always have asked me, how do you make monkey bread? How do you make monkey bread? Yours is so good. And you know, it even developed into Chandler's Family Restaurant that we had at one time, where we featured our monkey bread recipes. But that was some time ago, and now at this time, I just thought that I would share you my version and a version that I can share with you of how to make delicious monkey bread. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about how and what you would use to make monkey bread. If you get on the internet and you Google how to make monkey bread, you'll find things that say use biscuit dough. Okay, now if you use biscuit dough, that's what you're going to end up with. That's not a yeast product. It's a baking powder product. And so the consistency of it is not going to be the same. Also, your edges and your caramelization of the top and the sides won't be the same because it's not bread. It is biscuits. But with that being said, it still can taste good, but that's just not my preference. So I'm going to teach you, instead of using biscuits, how to use dinner rolls instead. And these are just dinner rolls that you can just buy in the store, and they are basically, different brands have all of their own methods of when you're going to rise and how long they take and the quality. I've chosen this brand because the research has shown me the best for what I use it for is the best. They have the best process. And what that actually means is the yeast timing and when it actually starts to rise based on when it is thawing and all that. They've got all that figured out. It's a masterful touch, and yeah, it took a lot of geniuses to figure that out. But with that being said, that's what we're going to use, and I'm going to teach you how to use that. Now, that's not what I use. When I make monkey bread, I bake it from scratch. Flour, sugar, yeast, the whole eggs, all the whole 9 yards, and that's how I make it. However, I understand everybody doesn't have a stand-up mixer and may want to be able to have a way to make quick monkey bread just on the fly and not to have some big process in order to do that. Now, there is some rising time even with this process because you're still making bread. However, if you plan it out, it can be done within a couple of hours, maybe 3 hours tops. And during the day, you're not really working. If you are working, and it's just really rising, so you're not doing anything with it at that particular time. It's just when it's done, you pop it in the oven, and then it's complete. And it is delicious if you use the techniques and things that I'm going to show you here. So we're going to get started here in a bit. I wanted to show you that for the size pan that we're going to use, we are going to use 8 of these. And so with that being said, I am using a 6-inch bundt pan that I'm going to use. I don't have it right here in front of me, but that's okay. I'll show it to you here in a bit. I'm using a 6-inch. By the time we cut these and get them in there, that's going to be enough monkey bread to fill that whole pan up. I'm going to show you what that looks like here in a minute. What we're going to do right now before we get started is I've got to get these thawing. And then before I can get them thawing, we need to get it processed properly. And that means get some spray oil down on the bottom of the saran wrap so that the dough balls don't stick. And then I'll lightly spray on top of them and then keep them covered while they're starting to thaw. Now, we're not going to let them thaw all the way. They're going to thaw somewhere around 20-25 minutes. We want them to get just to a certain point so that when we start cutting them up, they're not really mushy or anything like that at that point and have started their rising process. If you wait too long, you will stop the rising process because as they were rising, then you started mashing them down as you were playing with them. So we want to catch it before that actually happens so that we get a good full rise. I'm going to show you that here in a minute. Stay tuned. And we're back. So it's been about 25 minutes. If you'll look here, you can see that the dough is a little soft. And you can't feel it, but I can just tell you that it's really cold to the touch, and I can tell that it's still frozen in the center. That's the perfect time that you want to start to cut these because it's still in the thawing process and not in the rising process. And then it makes it easier for you to cut them into the little balls. Okay, so we do want to make sure that you've got enough spray as you're cutting them, that way they're not sticking. And you're going to cut these into little balls here. And I can feel them as I'm going along. They are very cold in the middle. They are thawing in the speed that I want them to. And as I cut them through and get all through them like this, I'll show you what it looks like on the inside, so that when you're doing this yourself, you can kind of tell for yourself. Now, I know that it's hard to, if he'll zoom in, if you'll notice the coloring on the inside, I'm kind of going to move that around so you can see how the color change. When this is completely thawed, you'll see that all of that will all be more of one color rather than two. So I'm not sure if you can see that, but anyway, just kind of look for that. And then all we're going to do is just spread these out a little bit. Remember, time is of the essence, so you do need to be watching this as you're doing it along. And just me even talking here and doing this process right here, if air is touching the top of these and drying them out, that will cause them to slow in and reduce how much they actually rise. So you do want to watch and kind of work quickly before they start in that rising process. And so then as I've gone through here and spaced them out so that when I close this up, they rise, they do not touch. I'm trying to do that as best as possible, but anyway, that's probably, looks like good enough and everything. And then what you want to do is you want to fold it over. And so I do want to move these over a little bit, because I've got to make sure that we've got enough room for when I move that over, that there will be enough. But anyway, that side is covered with Pam as well. And all I'm going to do now is just seal the edges around the saran wrap and let them set, and then they will rise from there. That is about another 30 minutes. In about 30 minutes, we'll come back and you'll see that they are actually then they're a little bigger, so they're actually starting the rise process. And then once they've started that, that's when we're going to dip them in the butter and in the brown sugar, because we are making Cinnamon Pecan Monkey Bread. That's what we're actually making today. And let's get to it, and I'll see you when we get back. Remember to hit like on the videos that you do like and subscribe to the channel. When you hit like on the videos that you do like, then I know what people are watching, and then I will concentrate more on those videos. And then if you have comments or questions, please feel free to leave them. And we're back. So now we've waited that time period of about 20-25 minutes. And I know that in the video you won't be able to tell, but what's starting to happen is that they're very pliable and the color is starting to change. And so therefore I know that they're getting ready to start that rising process. And remember, as I told you, we kind of want to beat that a little bit, because we want it to actually start rising with all of the goodness on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix that up. We'll put a teaspoon. Now I've got a cup of brown sugar, and then there was some leftover of the mixture that I had, and so I went ahead and threw that in there. So that's about 1.5 cups of actual brown sugar. And then because I've got that much, you want 1.5 teaspoons or so of cinnamon to give it that flavor. And then, you know, you can kill it with too much cinnamon, and then if you don't put enough, I always judge by what does it smell like. After I've mixed this up, and then I look at it and I, you know, kind of hover over it. Do I smell cinnamon or do I smell brown sugar? And then if it's really strong, you know, of the cinnamon, you know you've got too much in there, and vice versa. So it's a little technique if you look out for that. Once we've got all of that mixed up and it's all in there, we're ready. Now, what I also have done is I've reduced down a stick of butter. Remember I told you this. The kind of butter that you use is very important. When you use discount butter or the grocery store type, Always Save, I shouldn't say their names and things like that, but any of those type, it's not that they're bad butters, but they're made cheaper. They have more water in it. So my suggestion to you is to buy a good quality butter. And your first tell when you're looking at butter that's been reduced down is how much, clarification water is at the top. If we wanted to really be picky, we could sit here and pick out those little things like that and take that out and just actually have the real pure butter. We don't really need to do that. That would be perfecting it, but we want that butter melted down, and we've got a good unsalted butter to start with. Now that that's cooled down a little bit, it's cool enough so that when I touch it, it's not going to burn, but not cold, because I do want it to start the rising process. So we are making cinnamon pecan monkey bread, and so you want to start with pecans down at the very bottom of it. That's going to be what you see at the end of it when you turn it over, what is on top of it. All right, and then you want to, after you've dipped a few of these that are in there in the butter, kind of leave them in there a little bit so that they can soak a little bit. So kind of work with 2 hands, and while you're rolling, throw you another 3 in there while they're soaking, and then roll these in there and then layer them, trying not to get too much sugar on top of them. So you may dust the little bit of balls of sugar that's off of them so they don't have too much, and just complete with the process. Now what we're going to do is we're going to lightly roll these, and we're going to layer them around the bottom, and then as we keep going, we'll just keep layering around until we get an even roundness all the way around. We're going to come back when all that's done to save you that little bit of time, and we'll show you what that looks like. All right, so we're back, and just finishing up here, but I kind of wanted to show you down here. Once you get a few of them in there, you do want to make sure that you do sprinkle some more pecans around before you finish layering. That way you've got pecans around the sides and as it's going through. Because what's going to happen is that those balls are going to start to rise and then push things over. And when they're doing that, you want to make sure that it does have some pecans throughout. So then now that I have finished with those, I've got these last few that I'm going to dip in here, and then once I've done that, as I said, we're going to make sure that we have got a good deal over. Look at it and see, do you have it layered right? Do you need to make some adjustments? Is there too many over there, and something like that, and just kind of lightly move them around, trying to keep stuff on the sides because you want it to rise up that way. And then once you've got it all in there and you're comfortable with the placement of it, I don't know, I think I like that one. Well, maybe not. Anyway, you can get picky at it. It's really, once they start rising, it won't matter. But anyway, once you've got that completed, then what you want to do is you want to take that saran wrap that you had and wrap it up tight, and then, or at least so that air doesn't get to it. And so once you've done that, then it's time to start the proofing process. Now you've got some options for proofing. One of the things for proofing is, or I should say one of the things, the most and main method in people's households is they just leave it on the counter. Well, if you leave it on the counter, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It'll take a couple, 2-3 hours for that to actually rise. And that's fine. You started in the morning, you did this process, you set it over there on the counter, you've got a decent warm kitchen above 75 degrees or something like that, and the bread will just rise naturally. Later on in the day, you'll see that it's risen, you pop it in the oven, it's done. There's nothing wrong with that. However, if you want to speed it up a little bit, you got some more options. If you've got an air fryer, you can set it right in your air fryer, at least one like this, because not all of them have that. And then they have a proof option. And put it on proof, and then just hit start. And it'll set it at the lowest temperature, and it'll do it for 1 hour. Now I can tell you that this is going to take a little longer than that, but I like to check it right at about an hour. And with it sealed to keep the air out, and with everything set in here, and it's the only one, also keep in mind, I've got it in the middle and on the bottom because it says proof right there. That's where air and everything will get around it so that it can heat distribute and try to rise that bread. If you don't do that option, there's another option. Later on we'll talk about how you can proof the bread in the oven prior to doing that. Now, you don't want to actually bake it. There is a couple of processes and steps that will do that. But for right now, we'll save that and we'll come back to this in about 30 minutes and kind of peek at it a little bit to give you an update. But it's really going to take about an hour. Once that is complete, we'll look and see where it's risen, and then we're going to pop it in the oven. Look forward to seeing you back here. And we're back. So it's been about 25 minutes now. Actually, I take that back. Sorry. It's been about 45 minutes now. And we've had time for that bread to rise in there. So let's pull it out and look and see what it looks like. Turn that off. And look at what that has done now. That is the way you want it to look like. Look at how much it's increased in size and everything. And we are ready now to put this into the oven. And so we're going to put it in the oven for 350 degrees, and it's going to be exactly for 30 minutes. So let's take it on over there. Set it in the center of the oven, gently. And set our timer for 30 minutes. And we'll be back. All right, we're back. And the timer just went off. It's time to pull this bread out of the oven. So, of course, it being hot, you want to be careful. Grab it by its side and pull it out. And then that's what she looks like on top. Take a look around at the golden brown edges. This is actually going to be the bottom of the bread. And so what you want is the finished product. And what that's going to look like, the best way to do that is to cover this over like this. And then flip it over. And when you flip it over, be careful, of course, as you can see. Kind of let it sit there just a little bit. Make sure that it has dropped, which it sounds like it has. And then we will take it off and have a look. And that is Cinnamon Pecan Monkey Bread. Alright, one more final thing that I'd like to show you is now that you've made this bread, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to keep it? You don't want the dust in the air and all that. You want to kind of help it keep its freshness. So what I do is I go to one of our local grocery stores, which here is Hy-Vee and Price Chopper, go back to the bakery and just ask to speak to someone back there and ask them, and they will sell you these. And if you want to get the kind, they're, just tell them they're about 6-inch, and you can see about the height that you would need. And they'll sell you these. You can get a pack of 10 of them for $5 or $6 or something like that. You don't even really need that many. If they would just sell you 1, 2, or 3, at least you'd have some. And then just reuse them. Because once you've made that bread, you can take it, then, let's see, the best way is to slide that over just like that. Set it right in there. And then you can pop that right on inside there, and then that snaps tight, and you have got bread that you can keep fresh and peel and eat anytime you want. Thanks again. Hello there, Chandler, and I just wanted to take a moment and thank you for tuning in to our channel. I did want to show you on our channel what to look forward to. So this right here would look like a tablet that is on either your phone or a tablet that you're using. And so what you want to look for on our channel is in the playlist. In that playlist, it will show you the different things that I'm currently working on, because I'm not always going to be baking bread. There's some other projects that we're going to do. And if you have interest in one or the other, you can look in there and quickly identify which ones that you want to look at. On our home page, it will show you all of the videos if you need to be able to get through them. But other than that, if you have something in interest, click on the playlist and follow what you're most interested in. Thanks again. Remember to subscribe to the channel. The only way that I know if anybody cares or is watching is if you hit like on the videos that you do like and subscribe to the channel.